Hey, morning everyone. I thought I'd pick up where we left off on the tabular kind of workspace setup and start discussing how to connect to GCP for storage bucket integration. So to get started on this, I have a GCP account logged in, and I also have my Tabular IO. To start adding my integration, I'm going to go to connections and storage because that's what we're going to set up first, a storage bucket. I have nothing in here right now, so I'll hit plus, and then we'll go to Google Cloud Storage. We'll do S3 in another one, but they're really similar, and it's cool that I can support both. So Google Cloud Storage, let me click this. A new bucket is required, so let's set this up. Right here, this is like developing some initial values that we might use, and it might not look clear immediately, but this should already exist. So I'm going to stop here on the tabular side, and then I'm going to go create a bucket in Google, which is pretty simple. So logged in, I'll go to my navigation. I already have storage pinned. I'll go to buckets. And I have a Randy Pitcher workspace bucket already set up. Let's go ahead and just... Oh, I'm sorry. That's my project. So let me jump into the project. I also named my bucket that, so shame on me. So let's create a bucket. I'll give it a quick name. Randy Pitcher Workspace GCP, no problem. I'll hit continue. You may already have standards for this, but because this is mostly just a demo for me, I'm just gonna pick a region. I don't need any duplication. And as far as the region I want to pick, I found that I can pick really anyone I want, but I'd like to have it semi-co-located with where this expects. So for that, I'll do US East 4, and so going back here, US East 4, Northern Virginia. Perfect. So continue. Storage class, I'm an auto class guy, but if you know what you want, you can do this. Continue. Uniform access control is good for me, and how to protect objects. I like object versioning, so I can undo certain things. I'll just set it to these defaults. Again, use what's right for you, and then I'll click create. Okay, that was largely painless. I'll copy the name of the bucket and go back to Tabular IO, and I'll paste this value in. Cool. So this is one piece of it. This is how the bucket exists. The next piece is how do we allow Tabular securely to be able to access this bucket, but not really anything else that we might not want to show. So let's hit next. First, we need to create a service account within GCP, and we're going to also create a workload identity federation. The service account is going to be the entity that Tabular will assume when it's interacting in your GCP account. Workload identity federation is going to be the mechanism by which the AWS account that Tabular uses will authenticate to GCP. So let's do this. It's not as scary as it looks. Okay, so here we're going to actually, in another tab, I'm going to open IAM and service accounts. I've always liked service accounts in GCP. They're pretty simple. Let's create a new one. And the service account name will be Randy. Can I do underscores? Okay. Randy Pitcher Workspace Tabular IO SVC. I'm a SQL guy, so I use long names with underscores, and I'm maybe a little redundant. So we got that. Account description. Workspace. Perfect. So let's create and continue. As far as permissions that this might need, we want to make sure that this has broad ownership over the bucket we just created. So to do that, we'll go into object storage admin. Okay. And we'll add the condition. So right now this will just be conditionless. It'll attach to whatever. We'll want to add an IAM condition that will restrict it just to that bucket. And condition builder, we want it to be the resource name is, and if you're new to GCP, this was a non-trivial setup for me. So we actually don't want is, we want it to starts with, so the path starts with the bucket path. And for my bucket, I had this. Here we go. All right, so this isn't larger, but what I want to do is do project / underscore. That's going to be true of any bucket, any project you're in, any account. Buckets, and then the name of the bucket that you care about. So for me, that'll be this one. Perfect. So this is going to restrict, this condition will restrict the ownership access to just objects within this bucket and this bucket. I'll hit save. Perfect. And then grant users access to this account. That's not something we need to do right now. So I'll hit done, and it's created. Perfect. We have the service account. Going back to Tabular, it'll tell me what to do next. So next is workload identity federation. So we'll go to IAM and admin, workload identity federation, and create pool. Workload identity federation looks a little similar to workforce identity federation. So just make sure you click the right one. We will create pool. The name here, this is going to be my tabular IO pool. Okay, and the pool ID actually has some restrictions. So I'm going to make this shorter. So just RPW tabular pool. And this one, okay, that looks fine. Description, we'll leave blank for now. Enable the pool, continue. Let's add a provider to the pool. So in the instructions here, it says to do AWS and to copy this ID. No problem. AWS, provider name. This is a value we can just give a name to, and I'll call this tabular IO. Cool. All right, continue, and then the attributes. I don't think this says anything about that. I think I just hit save. Yeah. All right, I'll give that a second, and then we'll have really all the ingredients we need to allow Tabular to have secure access from its AWS account to this specific bucket that we just created in GCP. So let's go back. We've done all this. Let's hit next. And now we'll start providing values back. So it wants the project number and the project ID of the GCP project we're in. To get that, I just hit Google Cloud on this main dashboard, and the project number is here. No problem. The project ID is here. Pretty good. All right. Next, we need the pool ID and the provider ID. Both of those will be available in this workspace we were just in. I actually find it's a little easier to just go back to the workload identity pools and hit this little toggle. And here we have both IDs. We have the ID for the pool and then the ID for the provider. So let me copy this. Here's the pool ID. And I'm sure it handles spaces, but I'm not going to try to find out. Let me close this. And then tabular IO. Looks good. Okay, cool. Lastly is the service account. We need the email of the service account that we created. So let's go to the service account, which is in service accounts right here. And copy and then paste. One thing that I kind of skipped over here, and I shouldn't have, is that we need to grant the workload, the pool, the ability to assume this role. And okay, so we're going to come back to here after we do that. Let's jump back over. And the way I would do that is going to the identity federation and selecting this one. We're going to grant access. And the service account that we want to grant access to is right here. So make sure that's the correct one. In this case, I only have this one in this project. all identities in the pool. I could restrict it below, but I don't need to. This is like really scoped access just for this purpose. And I'll hit save. I don't need actually any of this, so I'll just tabular. Yeah, I'll just dismiss this. Cool. So now this pool is able to assume the identity of that service account. We're set, right? And that's how it'll access, because the service account has access to the bucket. This is how it'll access the bucket. So coming back here in Tabular, we got to assign which role I want to like be the owner of this integration. I'm going to use the security admin. That's my style, but you probably have your own RBAC set up in Tabular. Click create, and now it's going to go through and check the access kind of one by one. If you get an error, it'll hopefully tell you exactly what you need. Okay, I got an error. That's probably good. My guess is that I'm getting an error because my permissions were wrong. I kind of clicked pretty quickly in the service account. So let's debug this a little bit together. So I'll check the details. Something went wrong. Not the most descriptive. So let's dive into GCP. So into here, if this is making connections, I'll see data right here from the pool. So let me refresh this and see if there's any activity. Okay, no activity yet. That's fine. Let me go double check my access permissions on my service account. One thing I noticed, because I set this up before I did the recording, some of these settings, they take a second. So I might actually have to like retry. Service account, oh no, I need to do the access. So I go to IAM, I modify the access for the service account, which is right here. I can edit this. And it's a storage admin, full control of buckets and objects. Let's see here. So I'll go to, I believe cloud storage is the one I want. And storage object admin. I believe this is the one specifically that Tabular IO recommends. So I'll do that here. That I believe is a lesser scoped access. So it shouldn't actually, like, it should have worked before with or without this. So I'll hit save. Let's go back to Tabular. And all these values, thank goodness, are preserved. I don't have to go in here and redo it. So let's hit next. Security admin's fine. Let's create again and see how this works. I'll have a little coffee. I hope I don't have to scrap this video. Check the details. Error connecting bucket. Okay, so we got a different error this time. I know this sounds goofy. I'm going to just try again. This is a very bold move. Oh my gosh, it worked. Oh, cool. Okay, so that's unfortunate. It seems like some of the settings do take just a little while to persist. I know that sucks because it's not clear if I screwed something up or if it's just taking a second to persist. But at this point, we are connected. So here's my bucket name. My font's probably way too big for what you would normally have, but Randy Pitcher Workspace. Here's some details about the detail, like the connection information I'm using. Within, like, let's go examine this a little bit, right? If all you want to do is connect it, you're connected. You're good to go now. But let's like look around. So back in IAM, I'll go back to the workload identity. I'll click into here. And I can see this stuff is happening, right? It's like making requests on my behalf to manage this bucket. The bucket itself, right here, if I do a refresh, I don't believe it has anything in it. Yeah, there's nothing in it. So let's put something in there, right? So we've made the connection, the storage connection, but we haven't actually used it for anything. So I'm going to go to data, and we get to actually use Tabular now. We have a storage integration. Let's create a warehouse. So on this page, I'm going to click plus. Warehouse name will be Randy Pitcher Workspace GCP, and I'll make one for each storage integrator. Under here, the storage bucket. Okay, so it needs to be GCP. Perfect. Storage bucket. Look right there. What we created, the GCP bucket. And the creator role, just like before. I like security admin. I'm going to keep it nice and simple. Create warehouse. And now this is getting populated. I'll move my camera over here. This is getting populated with some default values. So the examples, this is actually a shared database. So the structure here, if I go back to the top, is that I have warehouses. So this will be my GCP warehouse. Within here, I have databases. Within databases, so like examples, I have tables. So the taxi table, this is a favorite. I can see all the different column descriptions, metadata, whether a value is required or not, the size. Activity is actually restricted because this is a shared table, which is sick. This is actually being shared out from Tabular, kind of central. The other thing that we do with this shared data is share system information. So like metadata about how you're interacting with this warehouse. Catalog events is one of my favorites. And here's some description of what it does. And of course, the activity is restricted here. Okay. Let's go back and actually create something. So we have the default database. This database will actually exist within my storage versus just being a share. And we can create a table. There are many different ways to interact with your tables. Many people are going to be interacting almost purely from a query engine. So something like Starburst or Spark, completely fine. But in this case, just to show you what's happening, I'll do it through the UI. So create table as, I can actually reference another existing table. Create table like, I can upload like a CSV file. And create table, we'll just do this one. So the table name will be hello world, as is tradition. The creator will be my security admin. Table description is my first table. Columns, we'll add this here, ID, and I'll make that a UUID required. It is the ID column. Perfect. Let's just keep it simple. This is like the simplest table you can create. I'll move my camera up here. Create. Cool. We have a table. This is like a real table. I can govern access to this based on the different roles I have. So the current access is only to the security admin, but if I wanted to grant role access, for example, I could pick the everyone group, and everyone can now select from the table, right? It's a read only to everyone. Very cool. Anyway, I don't want to get distracted. I should do a whole thing on access control. Okay, so going back, table overview, this is where it is, the activity at this point. There's no real activity. Snapshot settings, all this cool stuff. Let's go back and look at the bucket. What's happening in the bucket? So the bucket should contain, even though it's an empty table, it should contain at least the definition of the table. Let's refresh. Okay, cool. So the top level in here is I believe this is the warehouse we created. So you could have multiple warehouses within this bucket. Within here, I have metadata, and the metadata is linking to, and this is where my Iceberg, like I can't read this machine code all that good, but this will be actually a metadata file, probably defining the structure of this table and nothing else. So that's it. That's it for connecting Google Storage. In the next one, we'll do S3, and then we'll start connecting some compute, and maybe let's upload some real data, and let's write some queries. Get some compute in the action. Maybe do something with that taxi data set. Okay, thank you very much.